All right. So I agreed to put together a presentation, and as I was putting it together a few weeks ago, I realized that it's been a quarter century, which was kind of startling, but here we are. Back in '99, I met this guy here in the lab coat. Some of you may recognize them, Paul Verhaeg. He had come to Hutchinson to do a balloon launch with the Cosmosphere. I wasn't really planning on chasing the balloon. I didn't even really know what it was at the time. But like any responsible young adult, I jumped into a car with a complete stranger, and a few hours later I was hooked. Back then, there weren't all these that are laying around everywhere, free trackers falling out of the sky and such. And so I set off to build my own tracking tracker out of a microchip PIC processor, and to put together a team of chasers, as we see here, and all the other laptops and TNCs and paraphernalia, everything that goes with it. And in early 2001, on a cool overcast morning, we launched our first flight, which is seen here. On the tail end of it there is a space blanket as a steering rudder to keep the thing stabilized, and spoiler alert, it did not work. So this is a portion of the team that assembled to put together this flight, this experiment. There I was, a much younger version of myself. Cell phone work, that was kind of the technology challenge of the day. That was back before everyone had cell phones, and I had to borrow the thing from someone. The air traffic control tower was waiting on us to give them a call so that they could schedule us for release, because we were within the Delta. And the cell phone wouldn't work. After about 10 minutes, we just gave up, and we launched it. And a few minutes later, we realized that, well, duh, you've got to dial the area code on a cell phone, even if it's a local phone number, which was, you didn't have to do that before cell phones. So someone, and I honestly don't remember who anymore, someone advised us that we needed one loaf of bread positive lift on our balloon to achieve the desired ascent rate. And I don't know if it was the awkward unit of mass that was given to us, or if we just didn't get enough gas in it to begin with. But we took off at a few hundred feet per minute. You guys, anybody that's not a noob and understands that that's not a real great thing. So we were heading off to Nebraska and to Iowa. I had been in contact with a name that hasn't popped up on some of the listservs in a while, Ralph Wallio. I believe he's still around. But he was up in Iowa, and he was helping the HF communications, because those don't require area codes. And he was picking up our tracker and gave us some updated predictions that were putting us to Iowa. And so he called up another guy that actually just chimed in on the listserv the other few minutes ago, Mark Connor, up in the Iowa or the Omaha area, and he set out to help us recover. As luck would have it, the balloon actually burst a little bit premature, and Ralph sent Mark down to Nebraska, which is about 3-4 hours away from home. Out in the field there is Mark there on the, I guess the left, and then one of our locals, Craig Bronner from Hutchinson, that had gone up to chase, but you can see the package out there in the grass, and they marched out and got it. We had plenty of learning opportunities along the way. Things like don't trust the charge on your laptop battery, and if you make sparks inside of a KPC3 TNC, you can just write it off. My boss, Casey, was riding with me on this adventure. He had an unusual job title at the time of VP of Marketing and Technology. And I think I may have told him, don't worry, we'll be back home by lunch, or some such nonsense. And after winding up about 4 hours away in Nebraska, he basically called me a liar. A few days later, he brings in a CD-ROM to work, because everyone has CD-ROMs back then. And he hands this to me, and he tells me, Zach, don't forget to turn up your volume. Maybe I have volume. We'll see what happens here. But he brings the CD-ROM to me and says, your name and your logo. And I don't have audio, but that's all right. Oh, yeah, I do. So, and that is how Project Traveler's name was born.
Because the boss is always right.
The boss is always right, yes. We'll double play that just for good measure. My brand new tracker that I designed from scratch worked almost flawlessly, except for a short blip during the final couple minutes of flight where it keyed up and just started transmitting some gibberish. Looking back on it, it's pretty amazing that all those batteries stayed in place and the delicate little wires, none of them broke loose. This is the PIC processor on the big T-shaped circuit board there on the left, and it interfaced it off to a Garmin GPS and a Yaesu HT radio in the middle. I had a couple toggle switches. They're the ones you have to kind of lift up to flip back and forth because, you know, I thought that'd be pretty cool. This is my grandfather, who worked as an avionics tech at the Hutch Airport for about 40 years. He was my mentor and always encouraged me through all my hobbies. He didn't go chasing, but I called him because I'd figured out how to make a cell phone work by then, and let him know that we're up in Nebraska and everything worked on the tracker except for the last couple of minutes, and I just quit operating. By the time we got back to Hutch, he had theorized the whole problem, deduced that we were cold soaked from altitude, and then went through a patch of cloud. Any idea?
That was some hailstorm.
Yeah.
Grandpa George. The tornado shelter is.
I think the batteries may be going out on this. I muted that thing. So yes, that was George telling me he hates his picture being taken. No, yeah, he had theorized that we had gone through a patch of cloud and caused condensation, and that we should conformal code all of our circuit boards, which we started doing, and never had that problem repeat. Here on the left is my boss Casey that created the logo. His daughter was getting ready to go into 6th grade, and so he thought the whole balloon project would be a great thing to bring into the classroom. He developed a whole curriculum around RHAB, and as you can see, here, he was bringing in a chunk of dry ice into the classroom to illustrate, you know, kind of how cold it was up there. On the right-hand side, we had a vacuum chamber that showed the effects of low air pressure, and the classroom favorite experiment was to take marshmallow peeps and blow them up. He created all sorts of collateral to help explain, you know, kind of science of ballooning, and some of those we're still using today in various variations. Back in the day, he had to print everything off on a big poster printer to bring it in because, you know, projectors hadn't been invented yet. With a measly 3 flights under our belt, we decided that we're going to go bring this into a classroom. And so they brought out a couple hundred kids to watch us attempt this crazy stunt. This was from our 4th flight on May 2nd, 2002. And you can see some of the kids lined up. And I was trying to find, I think I still have the original newspaper. It was like a almost full page, I think front page, if I remember right. That led us down a path of a whole bunch more flights over the years. We learned a lot about ballooning and thought we pretty much had it all figured out. Then 2005 hit. GPSL that summer, a group of us drove up to Omaha. I had been working on my own balloon, nichrome wire based, incidentally. We had a type on this particular flight, and like I said, the whole group of us about 5 hours away to participate. We launched that Saturday morning, and about a minute or so into the flight at 3,000 feet, the cut down mistakenly fired and dropped the payload back across the road from us, basically. And that resulted in a whole lot of understandably frustrated members of my group. Did use nichrome wire, and I was thinking about that as Jim was talking this morning. The circuit board, I had inadvertently coupled the antenna ports on the little receiver back to ground, And so when I had it sitting on the bench, it worked great. But you went and put 30 feet in the trigger device, and it never heard the trigger device, and it had a fail-safe that if it lost communications, it would cut. So yeah, that's what happened. So that was kind of the first thing that happened in '05, and then the second one was we were testing out a new pocket tracker, which was kind of the state of the art at the time. It was a little VHF APRS transmitter that fit into an Altoids can, and it had a phase lock loop that you had to kind of hand tweak in there, and it was a little bit quirky, and we didn't ever properly cold soak it when we were adjusting that PLL. The PLL got up to altitude, and it lost lock, and that was the last packet we ever heard from it. We had visual on it for a while, but after losing, we had visual on it for a while, but then we lost visual. We assumed that it burst. We had narrowed it down to a few square miles of farmer's field, and there's 2 chase vehicles. We split up and we started looking for it, hoping that after it got on the ground and warmed up, we would start hearing it again. We never found the tracker, but the other vehicle did manage to find 2 nails and 2 different tires. Life pro tip, AAA will come out to the tire. When you tell them that you need more tires than you have spares for, they just shrug their shoulders. After that disappointing and costly year, and the fact that several of us in the group had young kids and we were trying to financially scrape by, we sort of disbanded for a bit. But about 5 years later, in 2010, I started getting the itch to play with these new Arduino things that had come out. And so I wound up porting over the PIC code over to the AT Mega processor. And I was aiming to get all of the systems kind of simplified, easier to go into a classroom and let them kind of build the tracker and configure and all. It took us a few more years to get restarted and work out all the bugs of everything, but in 2015 we got back in the classroom. I actually got about 6 more classrooms over a few years, plus a couple of air shows, and momentum was really picking up until COVID hit. 2025 did have a second loss. It was a fairly heavily experimental flight. I was flying a whole slew of like 4 or 5 trackers, something like that. And some of the trackers started giving us some fits on the way up to troubleshoot. The balloon burst about 56,000 feet for whatever reason, and that left us kind of behind the curve. We got to a few miles out when it touched down, and we drove to the heard the packet about 1,000 feet up. Extrapolating for winds, we think that touchdown was in the middle of that yellow circle there. And yeah, that's not a good sign. We pulled, and that's a view of the Nenaska River that we were dealing with that morning. We circled the area. I think I had a wedding or a graduation or something I had to get to, so I said, Joe, you're in charge. Joe went swimming, and he tried his hardest. He was out there for 3 days walking around. He didn't really do that. I think it might have been 3 minutes. He's like, Zach's gone, I'm out of here. But we went back out about a week later. We never found it, but I think that was our one and only splashdown.
Was this last like August? Something? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. I remember seeing all those flights on Sonda. A bunch of trackers just all strung together.
Yeah, that was probably it. I was testing some of the balloons, and so I had battery-operated Picos that I was flying, and yeah, I can't remember what the problem was. I think I had a firmware glitch that was kind of giving me some weird stuff, if I remember right. So anyway, Project Traveler statistics, 25 years of experience, have 44 latex flights with 95% recovery. 2019 GPSL, that was Pella, right? Yeah, so according to my notes, that was our top flight was 121,000 feet during that GPSL. I've got 11 Pico flights, and the most was about 6 circumnavigations. I have a hell of a time actually counting how many times it goes around, because it'll get a little eddy current down there in the Gulf, and so did we really pass? And so I'm going to say circumnavigations on a couple of them, and I've got 2 flights that have been up there for about 15 weeks as of last week when I was putting all this together. Done 3 air show launches, which is our Hutchinson air shows, so not Thunderbird, but hey, we still call them. And did 6 school launches, and there's actually a 7th school that I went into which didn't do a launch. we estimate about 1,500 kids impacted over those years. You know, all this brings a certain level of prestige and you know, stardom. You know, I'm pretty hot stuff now. I've got it all figured out, and so, you know, here's some AI generated glamour shot of me and my stylish sunglasses and my wife. This is really creeping her out. So I'm going to move on to the next slide. That was actually a photo of us in Virgin Islands, but that was not us. So, you know, all the stardom, host of GPSL in 2004 and 2006, 2010, 2014, 2017, and then again in 2025. I even had a couple magazine articles over the years about some of these crazy activities that we've done. Yeah, well, yeah, that was one of the first ones from Hutchinson. I can't remember, but it was at the Cosmosphere. But one day I get an email from a Japanese TV show. It's best I can tell, it was basically the Japanese version of Unsolved Mysteries, if you guys remember that show from around here. They were asking me to be a subject matter expert on balloons because the residents in Japan were starting to report that they were seeing weather balloons over the islands, and someone had theorized that they were coming from the United States. Sir. And it might actually be on the Super Launch website. I can send it to you if you want the originals, but.
Give one more time. And then, okay.
Back when they were kittens.
Bill, you should smile when you take that photo. And this wasn't even AI.
Yeah, this was not AI. There's Mike Manis there reading his magazine, not paying attention to the photographer. But
When was that picture taken?
I'm guessing it was either the 2004 or 2006. I'd have to go my notes. So anyway, Japanese Unsolved Mysteries, I rebuffed their argument that our latex balloons would not in fact be likely to go 2/3 the way around the globe to Japan. But nevertheless, they did this thing. The audio really isn't all that important. I don't know if I can turn it up at all or not, but so I think this is their subject, or this is their professor that had theorized these balloons were coming from us. And I tried to, you can hardly read it, but I tried to say, no, you need to talk to Bill. And apparently Bill ignored him.
I never saw it.
They called us too.
Did they?
Yeah, we had a balloon going over northern Japan, and they got interested in it.
So they unveiled the surprise guest speaker. And there I am. Got interviewed. This was an interesting experience. Yes, speak very well. Terrence, you sort of made it into the video, but they blurred you. But yeah, Japanese TV is interesting. A full copy of this video. It's about an hour long. The balloon segment was only, I don't know, 20 minutes or something, but I think their final conclusion, loosely translated, haha, stupid American, you can't even understand Japanese. Yeah.
They called us, I told them to call Zach.
I tried to steer them to Bill, but
Well, they did call me, but I never heard back from them. I talked to a woman.
yeah, there was a woman out of I think, and she was coordinating it, and she was real nice. They actually sent me a check.
They chose you, so
Yeah.
there you go.
Yeah, they sent me a check. I don't remember how much it was. It was like $200 or something. It's like, well, no, well, it cashes American dollars.
They thought that it was one of our balloons that went over northern Japan. So I spent hours convincing them it wasn't ours.
Well, yeah, and I sent them back and forth a bunch of emails, saying, hey, these are latex balloons. They go up, down, all this sort of thing. And finally I said, she asked if I'd get on TV and talk. And I think she was translating. I can't remember. But yeah, we were talking with these guys. And anyway, that's what it was. While I was on the show with them, it popped into my head, the Japanese did get pretty good at balloons across the ocean, and I had the self-control to bite my tongue at that moment. And after the interview, the lady called me up or something. I said, I did have this thought about the Japanese sending balloons our way, and I said I wasn't sure how that would go over. And she's like, yeah, you shouldn't have mentioned that. That was a good thing. So what could go wrong? And I describe this hobby to most people. Hydrogen safety is one of the first things that comes up because those who know. Hydrogen is flammable and accidents happen, smoking accidents especially. This next video I showed a couple years back at GPSL, just kind of clipped a short little bit out of it. Basically, hydrogen takes a lot of air to mix with it to actually cause combustion. This video, I took a nichrome wire. Yes, you can get nichrome wire back whenever this was. I put it inside of a bag full of hydrogen. I took my super safe pocket knife on a stick, on a piece of EMT conduit, and I ruptured the bag. And it's really hard to get anything. And then all of a sudden it kind of popped and opened up, and then of course you start hearing or seeing the red hot. So hydrogen, as I found, really isn't the most dangerous part of this hobby. Back in about 2015, I started kind of mentoring a group out of Dodge. And we traveled out there a couple times to do some joint launches with them, but it was time for them to launch out on their own. The forecast out of Dodge City had the forecast trajectory coming back to Hutch, so we basically loaded up in the car and we waited for it to drop in our backyard. We started receiving packets. Once it got a few thousand feet up in the air, but pretty soon we heard a burst. The computer does its chime and says, the thing burst. So we headed west and we met outside of a town called Kinsley. Western Kansas, as many of you know, is astonishingly flat, but we started hearing the 1-watt transmitter from miles away, which is never a good sign. We pulled up to the and we find it hanging from a high voltage transmission line. Children, don't try this at home. Their payload had come separated from the parachute around 50,000 feet and had free fallen back to Earth, only to be have the fall broken by the one and only thing sticking up in about 2 square miles.
It's like an aircraft carrier.
A resting hook. Yeah, a vertical resting hook. Yeah. So as it hit,
your connection to the ground is rubber tires. It's not as bad as your suggestion.
Yeah. So what?
The stick, is that?
It's a stick they found in the ditch.
Oh,
Yeah.
nice wet stick.
That's okay.
Yeah. Yeah. So the load line, the line broke the fall, but the load line went and wrapped around as it was coming down. So there was no way this thing was coming out of the power lines. I pull up.
You said hold my beer before you reached out.
This was not me. This was that group that will remain unnamed, not my group. Yeah, we pulled up to kind of assist, and we saw this, snapped the photo, and right behind me, some worker that worked for the power company just happened to stumble across the situation, and she yelled him to get off your truck, and they got a cherry picker out and went and got it down for us. Another daring story was this chase. The man on the kind of left in the middle and the leather jacket is Pete Sias from Salina. He launched a balloon, and a few of us thought we might as well take advantage of being able to somebody else's gas, somebody else's money. So the three of us on the right, we set out to chase the thing. It became afloat around 90,000 feet and hung out there for a while. We decided to stop and have lunch since it wasn't our balloon. We were about ready to give up and head home when it suddenly popped and it fell just across the Missouri border into some sort of military base. I've kind of forgotten exactly what it was now. We drove up to the front gate, not quite knowing what to expect. Told the guards our story. They waved us in, told us to get in, get out. The package was probably about 40 feet up on the top of a pine tree. John, the one kind of in the middle on the right, he decided it was duty to climb the pine tree. It was a real skinny little thing with these branches that were sticking out just a couple feet. And he shimmied up the side of the thing. I'm standing on the ground looking at it, trying to decide what I was going to tell his wife when I had to call her. But he made it back to the ground unharmed, and we quickly got to this picture of, wasn't AI, but it was very photoshopped sign because the flash blew it out, but it says, demolition range, do not enter during live firing, something like that. So, you've all heard the phrase, don't cry over spilled milk. What if it's an entire cup of sugared coffee straight into the laptop keyboard? That was almost the most damaging situation that I've had, but actually to Dell's credit, the keyboard has a tray under it and it caught everything and actually kept it from going down into the laptop. Flushed it out with some distilled water and still using, well, literally using the laptop right now. Several years back, Trey retrieved a capsule for some ranch land. We split the packages up, and I was carrying a capsule over my shoulder, something just like this, kind of walking around. I was leading the group back across the field, back to our cars, and kind of listening to this thing kind of knock around and everything. And the guy right behind me yelled, "Rattlesnake!" Yeah, it wasn't this that was rattling. I almost stepped on the guy. The group behind me, they saw it and they were able to avoid it. There was a kid with us, or one of the guys said he was going to kill it and cut the rattle off, but they didn't want to scar the kid. This little bastard I did see. We went up to a farmhouse to ask for permission to enter the field, and there was 3 dogs, 2 big ones and this little ankle biter. The ringleader, yeah. The big dog seemed friendly, and I let him sniff my hand and everything, and get out to go up to the front door. And this little guy had other plans, and bit me on the calf. Didn't exactly puncture the skin, but it scratched through the pants hard enough to draw some blood. After that, I decided that we didn't really need to ask for time, and we just snuck in and got our payload and got out. Several weeks later, I happened to be at the doctor's office, and he noticed the scar and asked what happened. I told him the story. His face made it perfectly clear that he did not approve. All right, kind of wrap this thing up. Last section, the hardware. Jim and Bill have kind of alluded to it a few times earlier today. But as I said earlier, I started out with hand-etched boards that were, big boards. The capsule weighed in around 4 pounds. We used like a 1-inch styrofoam that was all epoxied together, and it all worked really well, but it was heavy and dense, and of course that styrofoam keeps breaking every few flights. Since then, I've spent a lot of time working out the kinks in the system, trying to make everything on the process loss on launch day as simple and error-free as possible. These are a few of the trackers, my heavy trackers, I guess. I've used the radiometrics module, which is kind of the top left up there. It's a real good solid performer for a transmitter, but it's on a fixed frequency, which creates issues when you need to go off to an alternate off of 144.39. Switched over to using the SA818V modules, which are capable of 1 watt and configurable across the entire 2-meter band. The top left, it was an Arduino form factor and actually started out life as a shield for an Arduino. And gradually that evolved into, well, I don't really need the Arduino there, so I created the top right unit that basically had the Arduino melded into it. And then that little daughter board there on the very top of the pig, that was a swappable. It could be swapped out with the Radiometrics or the 818V. And then the bottom middle, that's the current version of my latest tracker. I'll be flying 2 of these things tomorrow. That shrinks the size down to 50 by 100 millimeter and weighs about 31 grams plus a battery. Typically fly on a couple LiPo cells around 500 milliamp hour, and it gives plenty of flight time, transmitter time, and weighs in about 100 grams altogether. Battery-powered trackers eventually evolved into a flock of pico birds. The first iteration is shown here, which is solar-powered VHF that feeds about 5 volts into one of the 818V transmitters and sends APRS. At altitude, coupled with the supercapacitor, these can beacon that half-watt transmission about every 40 seconds if you lucky. There's no shortage of sunlight up there at altitude. They're frequency agile, so they adjust their APRS data frequency to whatever the local standards are. I've had a few of these up under my call signs, or my call sign, and it seems like they always get cut short, but I do have a guy back in Hutch, Jerry, AC0RL. He launched one of these back on December 30th, and I can't remember. I think I saw it this morning on Amateur, so it's been up for 6 months. It counted 163 days, and I think he's on the 10th lap around the globe on that thing. It's right at 17 grams, and I'm going to pass it around here in just a sec. So, I got them tangled up here. But yeah, one thing that Jerry did, Jerry started me on, is a POXAM. When I started out, I was trying to minimize any kind of extra. I flew them very bare and really avoided anything extra. But he started epoxying things for some mechanical rigidity, and then he also used high voltage chronodope, conformal coating basically, to go over the top. And so they have solder masks on them now, of course, out of the factory, but I've gone over with it. But yeah, this is one of the key solar trackers that Jim mentioned this morning. I'll pass it around. It's got a whip antenna on the top, and then the other is the counterpoise coming down. And then it's kind of wrapped up, but I've got spider wire, Kevlar fishing line that goes up to a 3D printed balloon attachment. So you just slip the neck of the balloon through that. And it's 30 gauge wire, and then I can't remember what they call that piano wire, what gauge. Yeah, right about 17 grams. And then that led to this iteration that was an HF based. I've got it set up for 10 meters through 17 meters, and it runs off the SI 5351 chip, which is clock generator. It can generate signals all across the HF bands and up into the hundreds of megahertz. I've never tried it above 30 megahertz, but I'm sure it could generate all the way up as long as you put a good filter on it. It is a square wave output, so you've got to filter the hell out of it to make it legal. Otherwise, you get harmonics all over the place.
Transmitter chip you use on the use the 818 on the bottom
Yep.
side.
Yep, right there. So it's gotten kind of messy because I keep taking it apart to take photos and then wrapping it back together, but this is the Whisper HF, or the PT Solar HF is what I'm calling it, the Whisper model. But yeah, it's dipole. The top leg of the dipole connects to the same bracket that goes around the neck of the balloon, and then the other side just kind of hangs down below. And it also weighs in right at about 17 grams. What's that? Oh, were you the one that just ordered it? Okay, I shipped it yesterday. It'll be at your house tomorrow. So the ones that I've had were my early prototypes, and the filters are only good for about 28 megahertz. And so, yeah, I'll lose a few days. I think some of that has to do with 10-meter propagation not being all that whippy. So I expect it to go down below. I haven't flown one of these. Well, I launched one, but it hit the ground on the way up, and I never heard from it again. Something loose. So yeah, that's the only one of the current model that's been in the air. Let's see. So yeah, I've got W0ZC 18 and 19. They've been up for about 114 days or so. Jim, I need your spreadsheet thing because I can't keep track of how many times I've gone around. I think I'm around 6 times on that. So with all these trackers, I did attain my goal of having a simple configuration tool that communicates with the microcontroller over like a TTL type serial port. There's an application called PT Configurator, because I name everything PT, because why not? It queries the tracker and figures out which type it's talking to, whether it's an APERS or anything like that, APERS, HF. And so here's kind of a picture of one of the boards being programmed, just a 3-pin header. And then the PT configurator asks, how you want to set it up. Do you want a simple delay of X seconds? Do you want to adjust the beacon rate based on how fast you're going? Do time slots or the low power mode that kind of conserves power for solars? Several years ago, sorry Jim, your cut down is making me cringe. Several years ago, we started wondering what might happen if our packages hit a car. And one of our guys in the club, he figured out that he could bring a bag of Snickers down to the auto glass repair shop, and they would give him old windshields. So we pulled, he found a good windshield that had minimal damage. We built a 2x4 frame, and we spliced the glass into it, and we did something. We stood in the back of a truck and we threw a bag at it. I actually had a fishing pole type thing and hit it. That was a 5-pound payload, hitting at about 20 miles an hour. And after that, we realized that pretty much any direct hit at highway speeds is going to result in a cracked windshield, probably. It obviously depends on what angle you hit and all that sort of stuff, but
Pete Zayas has actually hit a windshield on Interstate 70 near Salina.
I've heard that story.
And it cracked the windshield, and he immediately bought a new one.
Yes, I've heard that story. That actually went around the radio club that I was part of.
I called and said, found your payload, but...
Yeah, and he thought he was a friend pranking him, and yeah, it almost got attorneys involved, is how it seemed to extrapolate. But yeah, so we've gone over to these flexible bags, lunch bags. I'll pass this around so you can look at it. This one's flown a few times, you can see, but just use Gorilla Glue, which some of that Gorilla Glue is coming off. But to use foam padding from seats. Here's one of the PT Flex tracker boards in here. But wire for the antenna that just crumples as it hits the ground. And you can cut things out, pockets here for the cameras and all that sort of stuff. But this is what we fly now to try and minimize damage to hitting anything. Yeah, so they're kind of in the middle of the blue. That's a little bit better close-up of the antenna. It's just a circuit board, and I can put either an SMA connector or solder and epoxy the coax directly to it, but it splits out and makes a nice little connection. Very simple, very easy, and very durable. For parachutes, I'm a big fan of the Rocket Man parachutes. They're a little bit expensive, but I think we proactively replaced our original from 2001, and then I had one that might have been in that picture that we saw earlier with the balloon that got all wrapped around. one of them, somewhere along the way, one of the shroud lines got cut as we were trying to unwind balloon out of it. But otherwise, they've just got 4 simple shrouds, and they just work. For my load lines, I just use braided nylon rope or Dacron rope, and I use heavy-duty split rings on the ends of it. If you want to cheap out and go with cheap split ends, you will wind up wrapped around a power line in western Kansas. Don't use the cheap ones; they'll come apart, but good ones will hold you just fine. FAA regs are a little bit weird on this, but they call for the balloons to be able to separate it from the rest of the string by 50 pounds of force. So this is the weak link that I have. I guess it shows up pretty well up there. The bottom piece here is just a welded ring. It's fairly small. I'll pass it around. And the top side is a doggy clip. Between that's 2 50-pound test fishing lines. I use Kevlar spider wire, and then I back it up with monofilament. The Kevlar seems better suited to the task, but it's also really waxy, and I've had a few of them come unwound over the years. So I fly both of them, and they seem to work. On the parachute and the weak link here. But top of the parachute, and it's all tied together there, but pass that around. That's one of the Rocket Man chutes. And don't ask me what size it is. It might say on the label, I don't remember.
With your weak link, how much payload weight do you?
I don't think I've ever flown about 12 pounds, but it'll hold 12 pounds.
12 pounds.
Yeah.
Near there.
Yeah. Most of my flights anymore weigh in around 2 to 4 pounds, just because I don't feel comfortable throwing up big, heavy metal things. And so, as part of everything else, I've just been all my packages. And so that's just where it's naturally gone to. Just talk real quick about what our process is. Use a big, large steel ring around the neck. We slip that ring over it before we stick the fill hose in to start filling. And then we just put zip ties. Historically, we used to use zip ties and duct tape, but after studying what Terrence keeps bringing back from NOAA and an ARM, we've just decided to use zip ties and call it a day. We fold the neck around, zip tie it, then we fold the neck back over the top and zip tie again. And then we bring a nice sharp tool up near a fragile latex balloon and cut the edge off to make an even sharper piece of plastic that's going to fly with our balloon for the next act. Just leave the zip ties. They're fine. That's how the pros do it. At this point, we have a neck. We have a loop on the bottom of the balloon. It's real convenient to handle the balloon, and it'll, even if you have gloves on, whatever, it's going to be fine. Once the balloon's ready and the payloads have been verified to be operational, you just take that ring that's on the end of the weak link here, and you just snap it onto that handling ring, and you're ready to go.
Sorry to interrupt. On your fold there, do you twist too, or you just fold?
I've just been folding. You could twist. It's not going to hurt anything, but yeah.
You helped me last year. I couldn't remember how you did it.
I think last year, I think we're probably still flying some duct tape because we weren't quite confident enough, but yeah, tomorrow I don't plan on using any duct tape. And then this configuration has one advantage. If you want to winch your balloon up, have your balloon and run through it, 4 people, handlers on the ground, you don't have to worry about the dreaded rope burn of death like Andrew found last year.
Yeah, there was another actual root cause in addition to the rope burn of death. It was some dry rotted string that we used.
Cool.
So once we recovered the remaining payloads, we could pull it apart by hand in different spots. So the rope burn was probably the leading issue there, but the second issue was just bad string. I won't point fingers, but provided some questionable string. And the other payload that was victim of that was the Insta360 X5 camera. It was a $500 360 camera somewhere in a field there near Hutch. And I'd still love the SD card, so if you find it in the cornflakes or anything, let me know.
Okay.
But the string broke again on that flight beneath the camera, but above the first tracker. So, yeah, we've changed policy on how we space our payloads, where the trackers go.
Yeah, I always want to make sure your heavy one's on bottom or your whole thing can invert.
Or in our case, the expensive payloads have a tracker above and a tracker beneath. So it gets
Yeah, yeah.
Exactly.
So you're saying that was probably the only high altitude balloon payload ever that had FAA compliant brake strings on the
Yes,
Just saying.
more than compliant.
And we never reuse string.
Yes.
Yeah, I believe we got this from the EOSS group. I think you guys call it the Hail Mary launch approach. I don't know if that's an official term or not, and I may be completely wrong on that, but yeah, have the balloon handler up, lay out all your strings downwind. The instruction of the people downwind is you just hold it out and you don't hold on to anything, you just keep it off the ground. And then the person on the end needs to be able to be in case it kind of goes sideways. But
Ideally, your face not between the payload or in line with the payload and the balloon.
yeah, hold that thought. So here's a typical Kansas launch.
That's a light wind day.
Yeah, this is a light wind day.
It reminded me of the one we did from Tim's farm.
So yeah, that was the windiest launch we've ever done. I think we're in a wind advisory. Why we decided to launch, I don't know. My guess is it was scheduling conflicts, and we're like, nah, we've got the gas. What else are we going to do? All right.
It's a little bit more exciting when you get about 400 kids watching.
Yeah.
The wind shifts right when you let go, and all the payloads go right into the kids. And they go scrambling. Girls squeal.
All right, when I'm chasing, I usually have the Yaesu FTM 400 mobile radio with me for communications and for a simple APRS display. It gives me a quick peek at where the balloon is in relationship to me. But my main tool that I use is Balloon Finder. It's a Windows application that I've written. It's out on the projecttraveler.org website. But it gives me a map of the flight along with the ability to run ad hoc predictions. It also runs updated predictions. Every packet comes in, it's re-predicting and it's reanalyzing based on the winds that the actual balloon has encountered. Of course, I have a GPS to track my own position, which hopefully I have that with me. I thought it was in that tub that I brought in. It's not, but it's a Bluetooth-enabled GPS that feeds into the balloon finder on the laptop. And that lets me calculate distance where I'm at and then distance to the balloon, bearing, elevation, and so forth. Of course, it picks up APRS IS, so I can, just watch at home. It also iGates from the balloon back up to the internet, because we have a lot of armchair chasers that want to see exactly where it landed in the field. Found these VGC N76 handhelds a couple years ago, and really them. It's got a Bluetooth-enabled KISS modem inside of it. And so there's, between the Bluetooth GPS and the Bluetooth coming off the KISS modem, there's nothing attached to the laptop unless we need to plug in to just top off the battery or something. But then the N76, it doubles the field tracker for going that final mile, because it'll say you're so many meters away from it and it's to the northeast. It's updating the predictions, as I said. And by the time the balloon bursts, we know where the thing is going to land within a couple miles. I've got the Quanching handy-talkie that Bill showed tied into to Horace GUI. I've got the Horace GUI talking to Balloon Finder through a UDP port, so I can chase and see that. Of course, right now I don't have Bluetooth on that cable, but I think I may order sort of and have another Bluetooth coming into the laptop and not have to worry about that. But Balloon Finder gives us everything that we need to see while we're chasing under one pane of glass. So this, yeah, we just what we chase with. It can also tie in up to two like serial-based TNCs and network-based TNCs. So that'd be like Direwolf and Horus GUI. So what's next? I'm not really sure what the next step is. I have my whole line of trackers kind of ready to go, and I have that manufacturing process down. GLC PCB has been interesting. The tariffs have, this is a really bad couple of years to decide to prototype a bunch of brand new equipment where I have piles of scrap PCBs sitting on my bench because I had a problem with them. I've been thinking about upgrading the microprocessor, something a little more modern, a little more RAM, but I just not totally sure what I'd use the extra cycles for. I've been selling a few of these on eBay. Sold one this week, so we stopped in Des Moines and shipped it. And sorry, I looked for your name on the roster because I was going to bring it to you, but oh, you ordered one today? Okay. Oh, yeah, then we'll square up. I did not see you. So there's another one going down to Huntsville, Bill. I don't remember the name off the top of my head, but Thomas, yeah. So. But anyway, I did attain my goal of having a simple to assemble tracker that a school group could do, and even potentially write their own custom firmware and place on this thing. And so I'd really like to get back into the schools and maybe even get into more of a high school or college level. Most of my stuff's been around 5th, 6th, 7th grade. The Pico trackers, they're fun. I've enjoyed building and launching those things. It's a challenge to get all the mechanical and electrical and software issues figured out. I think I'm getting close. But I will say that the Picos, they don't scratch the social itch of the adventure of going and chasing and putting together chase teams and you know, trying to walk through the field without getting bit by anything. A few of us have been talking about doing a Pico build party at a local makerspace where we'd assemble a thing and then and maybe go fly, you know, yet that weekend. But right now, I'm just having fun and enjoying all you guys as company. You guys have been like family to me, and I really look forward to these GPSLs every year.